Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Better Opinion. I am your host, Kevin. I am joined by my co-host, Mansor. Mansor, hello.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, no, we've never met before.
Yeah.
It's really good. How are you?
I love technology.
You love technology?
I really do. We had no technology issues today at all.
No, none. No technology issues. Well, you know, nobody ever has technology issues. The whole world is working really well all the time.
Yes.
I believe you have had technology on the mind. You mentioned TikTok.
Speaking of technology, let's talk about the one-day TikTok ban.
How do you feel about the one-day TikTok ban?
Well, President Trump has saved us from his own decision to ban TikTok. He has brought TikTok back. I'll be very frank. I hate TikTok as an application. I believe it is from inception very evil in what it wants to do. I do believe it is taking information, but I also am not really for banning it because it is not the solution in my mind. It is also not addressing what the issue is, which a lot of other apps have, Meta or Facebook, as I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg does not want me to call it.
That's what it is.
Yeah. I think Twitter has a whatever streaming thing because they want to be another TikTok, YouTube Shorts, or whatever. The problem is mostly that these companies are gathering your data and using it for their own means.
That's been the name of the game for a while.
That's been the name of the game for a while. But none of your politicians are going to do anything about it because the inception of the TikTok ban was not really for you. It was because a lot of people have Meta stocks or Facebook stocks.
The other reason, which was stated by I forgot which politician said it, but they just straight up said it when asked about the TikTok ban or wanting to ban it. They said that, well, there's a lot of propaganda on there, like anti-Israel propaganda, pro-Palestine propaganda.
Yes, the only application that has that propaganda, I'm sure. No other application has this.
Well, what it is that most, like YouTube, you can find people talking about both sides of it, right? But TikTok was distinctly pro-Palestine and anti-Israel in the way information was getting disseminated. You got a lot less pro-Israel stuff on average compared to most other platforms. This is true. Whether this was because, you know, ByteDance was being told by the Chinese Communist Party to affect that algorithm, or if this is just the demographic that's on the platform. You know, TikTok tends to lean a lot more in a certain direction, you know, politically, and that direction also tends to be more pro-Palestine and anti-Israel. But what's interesting is that, so without going too much into this, when polled, more people are sympathetic to Palestine than they are to Israel. Yet our government is unanimously more sympathetic to Israel than Palestine. So that pretty much tells you where the decision making is at.
Yes. But back to technology in general, it feels like this was, I don't think, a specifically technology-based reasoning for what they did, but it feels like the government doesn't really know what to do with technology in general.
Yeah, well, that actually plays into, so that the fact that politicians are being affected by their politics and decision making isn't really a removal from the technology, because what it is that TikTok as a platform allows China to disseminate or control the spread of information, whereas usually the U.S. government has control of influencing these companies that are U.S. based in the dissemination of information. And usually they don't have to say anything, right? They don't have to like tell them what you've got these companies, you know what you want them to do, and they're going to toe the line to keep you happy so you don't do anything about it. So they never have to do anything. But now there's an application that is primarily controlled by a foreign government that is incredibly popular in the West, and it has things on it they don't like. Whether that's Israel versus Palestine or anything else, the point of the matter is that they have now an opinion on it, whether it's because they don't like China or whatever. And as you pointed out, they don't actually have any clue how technology works or how to deal with technology in the modern age. So this was the first example of our incompetent leadership attempting to manage it, because up till now they never had. They never had to.
That I think of other examples, but this is the most, let's say, more people were upfront affected by it and realized they were being affected by it. The more ongoing one that I can think of that people are affected by but don't think about is right to repair.
Sure, right to repair. Yeah,
that has been an ongoing battle. I forget exactly what happened. There was a bill that was going to be passed for right to repair, except all of the teeth were just ripped out of it.
Of course.
Like all the things that made it worth anything were removed. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, it's a step in the right direction," but it's
still just the legal bribery. It is lobbying, which is just bribery. It is corruption. Anyone who says otherwise is full of shit. And that they were influenced by the people who fund their campaigns and, to take the teeth out of it.
Yeah.
It's similar to DMCA, actually. The thing about the DMCA is that it was designed in an era where people were copying CDs manually, or things were recorded on a physical medium, and it did not exist in an age of Spotify or when you were listening to music playlists on YouTube. So now we live in a world where someone who is live streaming a live format from their home, they are not a business. Yes, we can sit here and say, well, according to the taxes, they are a business, blah, blah, blah. Irrelevant. We're talking about some guy who is not a corporation, who is not a restaurant, and their objective is like they're just listening to the radio. Now, you and I can listen in our car all we want to the radio, but as soon as I pull up my phone and pull up the Twitch app and hit go live, now
you're broadcasting.
Now I'm broadcasting, which is being treated like a radio station, but it really isn't. And people would say it is. They are wrong, and that is because in the modern era, things just aren't how they used to be. And it's like if you asked a person the question, do you really, because people say, well, then just don't steal, right? They'll say stupid shit like that. But the reality is that if you ask someone, a reasonable person, the question, do you think like some guy playing Path of Exile to an audience of like, I don't know, so 10 to 50 people is like really benefiting off of like listening to Doja Cat in the background? Do you think Doja Cat or the publisher are like really losing money on that?
Do you think Kanye is suffering because
it's not even about suffering? It's like, do you think that those listenings, like, do you think someone goes and watches, let's make a bigger streamer, do you think someone goes and watches Tyler One to listen to whatever music he's playing?
No.
If he was playing music, which he currently doesn't, but like, let's say he did, right? Like, that's not why they're there. And so if you're Doja Cat or you're the publisher, you're not losing any money. When someone buys like a pirated CD or downloads the music instead of buying the CD at the store, then you are losing out on a sale that you at least believe they would have made if they couldn't have downloaded it illegally. But when someone's just listening to someone else's Spotify through a stream, no one there was planning on buying and now won't, right? No one there was even going to buy Spotify and now won't, because if they really wanted to listen to those songs for free, they could just go on YouTube. And then you can say, well, they're still getting paid on YouTube, but that's not the point, right? And so why am I bringing this up as it relates to TikTok? Because we've seen that the DMCA has stuck around for so long. And it has not been brought up to the modern era. And this continues to cause problems for young people, for new technology, new things. And you see that our politicians, no matter how much people say this needs to change, they don't do anything because they don't even understand it. And now you see it happening even more with more advanced things like how they manage TikTok, which was all a publicity stunt. I mean, let's be real. The Biden administration said they had no plans to enforce it. TikTok still took it themselves down, made a big deal about it, and then 12 hours later said, oh, thank you, President Trump. Oh my God, you're so cool for letting us stick around. And we've actually been seeing all the tech companies do this. You saw Mark Zuckerberg go on and talk, Meta, Facebook, has been a rainbow capitalist organization for years. And now that Trump's in office, he's going on Joe Rogan and saying, oh, all of that progressive stuff is so stifling, right? It's all a performance to ingratiate themselves to the new powers that be. And our government, the people who are legislating, right? Congress, to your point, they don't even really understand it.
They're too old to understand.
They are too old to understand it. It is. I'm curious. What do you think about the fact that, like, I think it was, I forgot what the chair was. There's some committee chair position that AOC should have gotten, and then like the Democratic Party just threw her aside and put some like 74-year-old guy who's in the hospital with cancer in that position instead.
Well, they're not really thinking. Nope. They're not. They like how they put forward Biden, like how they put forward Hillary Clinton. They're just putting someone who has experience.
They put forth Kamala Harris. Tim Walz was a good pick, contrary to what people think. But Kamala was a
nothing burger.
A nothing burger. Yeah, I thought that when she was vice president, and I think that when she was a candidate.
As a candidate, her speeches were, "I'm a nothing burger."
Yeah, I am not offensive in any way.
Yes.
Yeah, what a sales pitch.
Yes,
you know.
Yeah.
No, technology right now is at a point where it is advancing. Well, technology is always exponential, as you know, right? Every advancement is exponentially more extreme than the last advancement, right? And I don't mean micro advancements like with your NVIDIA card, right? I mean like whenever someone has a new breakthrough, it is exponentially more of a breakthrough than the previous breakthrough. Yes. Because of just the compounding effects of advancing technology.
And the law is not catching up, because there's more and more problems coming up with like cyber threats, and the is like recently, what was that cyber threat attack that happened? It was CrowdStrike, the CrowdStrike attack
thing, yeah.
And it's like I was thinking, like the moment our company got CrowdStrike, and I was like, hey, this is the protection program. I was like, oh, this is gonna be an issue. this seems like a problem, and like. It was like, what is it, like maybe years later, maybe months later, and look, everything is down. And and the only way to fix things is you need an IT person who knows how to fix it. How many people in like any sort of position where they have to use a computer actually understands how to do this fix? They have to, I think, go into like System 32 and replace a file. It's like, to me, it would be like, oh, that sounds not too bad. But like, you consider anyone who is in the government, all of them are going to have a panic attack. It's like I have to do what?
Yeah,
File system where?
Well, that's interesting too, because I've complained about this. At my old job, I used to get treated by everybody as being hyper technologically competent. And what would happen is that when IT people without going too deep into it, they had like redone the IT department, and it had reached a point where it just wasn't good enough. You had a few local people, they were way too busy all the time, and they had a ticket system where you could be standing right there, but they wouldn't help you until you put in a ticket. The ticket went to India. Some guy in India would check just like a playlist, right, and decide whether this is something or not, and then and then to fix it, they'd have to assign it to your local agent, who was backed up, by the way, because there were so few of them locally. And the only reason that I could get them to help me is because I would tell them, listen, you can help me, or I'm going to start breaking things because I'm smart enough to know how to do it. And they knew that. Like, this was the thing. They actually treated me with respect because I had basic computer literacy. And so what would happen is when those guys were busy, other people would come to me to go, Kevin, how do I fix this? Because you're the only one in the office. But I wasn't. I was the video guy, right? I was the guy who was in the recording studio. I had the cameras and the microphones, but I used computers to do that.
Yeah.
And so, and they would come to me like, the screen isn't working. And I'd go, oh, your dock isn't plugged in. And they're like, what do you mean the dock isn't plugged in? I mean, there's no power cable in the dock. You're connecting to the dock. You know, one of those Dell docks that goes to multiple screens.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And this was most of the workers. These basic things were absolutely, but so people would look at me and think I was super literate. And like you just said, if someone said, hey, there's a broken, let's say DLL file right? I'd be like, okay, well, I don't know how to make the correct file, but if you have the correct file, I know how to put it where it belongs.
And that's not a difficult...
That's not hyper-competency. That's just understanding that there are files that the operating system uses, and if one of them is corrupt, you need an uncorrupt one, and to put it there. And if someone provides it to me, I can put it in the correct spot. But that, to most people nowadays, is considered very deep computer mechanics.
I'm so disappointed because you use a computer every day for your job. You use a tiny supercomputer in your hand, and while you might not think it has a file system, it has files on it.
Yeah, this is just a computer with an operating system.
It has Linux-like. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And yet people, well, this is the problem. Everybody's growing up with these,
yeah,
right? And they're not growing up using a desktop computer. In fact, the majority of people, a majority of young people, don't even know how to use a desktop. They know how to use tablets and cell phones.
I know. And if you show them a keyboard, they're gonna touch the screen. It's gonna, why doesn't?
Yeah, this actually happens. This was a real thing, and because we just don't. I remember when I was in college, even it was beginning, and I had to take like Computer 101, and I had to do it. It was like I was near the end. I was about to graduate, and I realized, and they had like instituted while I was there this class, and they made me go take it. And it was like one of the last 4 classes I had to take. And I went in there, and the teacher acted like I was hyper competent, and I'm like, you just asked. You asked what the power cable is.
I've used a computer before.
Yeah, but when she said what is an application, nobody could answer it. Yes, I'm serious. And they'd be like, is it this? And they'd point to the shortcut on the desktop. And she's like, well, that's a shortcut to an application. And they didn't understand, right? But I grew up using a computer. To play putt-putt goes to the zoo. And to play Pajama Sam.
Yeah, because I find the most basic things that should not be impressive is impressive to people. And that's so frightening.
It's indicative of the problem we're talking about.
I went to like fix a printer at my mom's work, and I was like, it was like going through trying to fix like what's going on here, and then I look at the back of the printer, it wasn't plugged into the Ethernet cord. I was so
crazy. Yeah.
I was so angry.
I would be.
I spent an hour because I've learned from many mistakes. I should just assume everything is not correct.
Yep.
And go from the top down. I don't care who I'm talking to. I don't care how, because even I will make some mistake. Maybe I'll unplug something, but I will just go, is it plugged in?
We did this earlier. We did the top that we said, assume everything is broken, and we're going to troubleshoot through each piece of this setup until we find where the issue was.
Yeah.
Where we discovered it was a USB port, right? But like, that's my point. You know, you could, if you ask someone, 90% of the people I've met to do that, they wouldn't even know where to begin. What do you mean troubleshoot? What do you mean? What do you mean it could be the USB? Why wouldn't, you could get the question, why would the USB port not work? And I go, I don't know.
Maybe the hub driver isn't in.
Or maybe it's broken. Maybe it's chipped. Maybe the cable is loose. Maybe the firmware is not working. Maybe, I don't know. There'd be a variety of reasons that a single USB port is broken. But, you know,
because the weirdest thing is computers are easier than they have ever been, ever. Because like it's like even building a computer, it's become it's like it's not. I wouldn't say like it's not kind of hard, but compared to what it used to be, it's like brain dead easy.
Yeah, it's very plug and play now.
It's very plug and play. Before you had to like solder things, you had to there were compatibility issues like.
Now everything's really designed to work together as much as it can.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. I will say one thing, though. I think I used to say, well, you know what? Whenever someone said I don't know how to do something, I would go, well, you know what? You have a smartphone, don't you? And they go, yes. And I go, did you know that you can type in your exact problem into Google and search through the results for a solution? Nowadays, that's not even true. 90% of the results are not even the thing that you're looking for. And when you do find someone who says they are referencing it, it is a web page that appears to be AI generated that lists every possible problem and asks you to do the most generic things. Have you tried uninstalling and reinstalling? Okay, sure, that could be it, but I don't want to lead with that. I was having an issue. Let me give you an example. I was having an issue. Do you know the video game Ark?
Yes.
Total piece of shit. But it has one thing everything else doesn't have, the ability to tame and raise dinosaurs. It's a broken piece of shit, though. And I was having a problem where I would try to launch the game, and it'd be super laggy, and then it would crash. And it would give you this big error message. But it would say low-level critical error. And you would, and it would reference one thing. And when I search this specific error, I would get all these other low-level critical errors instead of that one. And I kept searching and searching and searching, and I couldn't find a single answer. And the ones that would try to address it would say a bunch of shit that was like, well, have you tried uninstalling and reinstalling the game? But I know what the problem was, because when I turned the computer off and turned it back on, it worked fine. What's happening is that the game has stored some, I'm almost guaranteeing that it's referencing the memory. And what happens is it's storing something in the memory.
Oh.
And then when it pulls, but then I don't play the game for a week. So then when but I hadn't, turned my computer off. I'd only put it into sleep in that time period. So the memory hadn't fully dumped.
So it's probably something in local or roaming. If people don't know, a lot of temporary files are, if you press WinR on your Windows machine, you go %appdata%. A lot of games or whatever will put their temporary files in that place. And if you're having a problem with anything, chances are if you delete it in like local roaming or one of them, it's probably going to fix it.
But all I did was I just restart the computer, and that fixes it, right? And that's how I knew it. I was like, I knew that had to be the problem, right? And so if you ask someone else to troubleshoot that, they would have done a million things and accept that. Right. And actually, you might be like, well, why didn't you if that fixed it once, why didn't you do it the next time? And I said, because I wanted to understand why the error was happening.
Yeah. A lot of games will make logs, and in the same folders I was talking about, in like an Arc log, and
that's asking a lot of wildcard.
If the developer decides to print sane messages, and in if you guys don't know, in the programming land, something that's sane, like in regular land, means that it's just makes logical sense.
You can read it.
Sane defaults. Then you could probably kind of discern what might be happening if you have enough information about computers to see like, oh, it was like a reference to memory has happened here. The memory reference is like not what it was expecting or something.
This happened to me on my old computer. I had a memory leak in my pictures folder. For whatever reason, if I used full thumbnails instead of a list view, it would just start a memory leak until it hit critical mass. And then and then either Explorer would crash, or I could just cancel. I could stop the process for Explorer. So I went through every little thing trying to figure out what it was. And I found some thumbnail that for a file that didn't exist, that it would try to pull up. I couldn't delete it. I never could. The only way I ever fixed it was to just stop using that folder and create a new pictures folder.
I know you're going to hate me for this, but that wouldn't be a problem in Linux.
I don't hate you for that. You want to know what my problem is with Linux? The fact that this is the thing about Linux users, no offense, they all do this, you included, is with Linux, it does work. And nowadays, it works better than ever. It used to be a lot worse. People used to really try to sell it to you, and they were full of shit. It is a lot better now. The problem is that when people understand something, and people do this about other stuff too, I have a competency in something. So now when you say, I don't really get it, and this is what I want, you start talking about it. And then you say a lot. And you do things like, oh, you have all these options. I don't want options. I want this. Well, yeah, but actually, it's like, oh, you're telling me that wine works perfectly? Okay, I'll do that. Well, no, actually, this is actually a skin it's actually that's not even Linux. Linux is below that. I don't care. I said what I wanted and you described it to me. I don't actually care what's below that, right? I just want the thing I'm looking for. Oh, well, it's infinitely customizable. I don't want it to be infinitely customizable. I want the thing that I want delivered to me. just as in its ready to use form. So like the new Windows 11 is garbage shit. My little server PC that I have, that's like I'm running like Arc and other servers on, it uses Windows 11. It's so shit. It is the worst garbage known to man. Everything, the context menus, everything about it. I hope, it is my dearest wish that whoever designed Windows 11 watches this and feels like the only option in life is to jump off a cliff after hearing me talk. It is truly, truly, truly abysmal. I am being annoyed by the slow drift of your microphone. It's just, it always does this. It's this cable just slowly pulls on it and it just goes.
I'm just going to buy another cable that's longer than.
Well, I don't know. Anyway, it's not relevant. The point is, it's bad. And I still use Windows 10, but it has its own problems. And the reality is that Linux, when set up exactly how you want it, is preferable.
It becomes very easy. Yes.
It becomes very easy.
Yeah,
but when people who know Linux talk about it, they use the words, it is very easy. But to someone who's never done it before, that is an incorrect statement.
Yeah. The problem is,
Come on, sell it to me now. You know I'm right.
It's like, I know you're right, and you are right. It's like, because here's the thing, I could make it very easy for someone to like plug and play Linux. I've done this for someone. I've put it's like, I'm gonna say things that you're gonna not know or
go ahead.
Care. I put like a Fedora distro. I made it as easy as possible. You don't have to go on the internet to download any packages. All of them are in like this app store, and then you just have to download it. It's on your computer and it's done. Because like that's my favorite thing about Linux. You don't have to go to any website to download anything. You just search the package name and it's downloaded, and it's like,
if you know the package name.
If you know the package name, you could search for it. It's like, because like I said, you can have like a app store like interface to look through it. The problem is that there's too many options.
There's too many options,
and you have to like what you have to talk to a person like, what do you want to do with your machine? Like for any streamer, my gut reaction is install Nobara, because there's this person developing on it who is a streamer. He makes updates to it that help streamers and like a lot of stuff like that. And then it's like, people will tell me, I want it to look like Windows. You install KDE and it's going to look mostly like Windows. If you want it to look exactly like Windows, you have to make a lot of changes here and there. You can make it look like Windows 11 if you show it.
So I mean, that would be insane. But if you made it look like Windows 10, that would be normal. That would what like a person with a brain would do.
Yeah, you could make it look like Windows 10, maybe without the tiles. I don't think anyone likes the tiles.
I don't give a shit about the tiles. Yeah, it could look like Windows 7. There you go.
It can look like anything you want. And that's part of the problem. It's like there's...
Well, you want to know what? This is something I run into. So it's the question, what do you want?
Yeah.
This is what people ask. And I go, that's the wrong question when you're talking to someone who doesn't know. The correct answer is, what do you plan to do? That's the question. What do you plan to do? And then they tell you what they plan to do. And then you, the expert, go, I understand. And you give them what they need for what they plan to do. This happens to me when I play video games, right? So as a streamer, when I stream video games, I stream to a small audience, but I'm backseat friendly, which is like super rare on Twitch. It's so much that nobody will do it. They're all afraid to. But I always go, listen, if I'm playing an RPG or any technical game with like build variety, I don't backseat me. I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't beat the game. I want to know what'll be good because I want to be good. Right? And so I'll say, I want to build as many skeletons as possible. Can you tell me how to summon as many skeletons as possible?
And they go, well,
what do you want to do? I said, I want as many skeletons as the optimal build is the one where the countable number of skeletons on stream is greater than the number there were previously. Whatever that is. And now you go, well, that's not really an optimal build. No, it is an optimal build. It is the optimal number of skeletons.
For what I want.
For what I want to do, which is have more skeletons than were previously there.
Yeah.
And then I'll go, I'll be looking at something. I'll go, which of these is better? Which one would be better? And people go, I don't know. It depends on what you want to do. I said, you know what I want to do. Which one should I pick? So then nobody answers. So I pick one. And later, many hours later, someone goes, well, if you'd taken that other thing. And I go, I'm going to reach through the screen and I'm going to strangle you in whatever country you're in, probably Canada. And that's my point, right? Is it's like people who are experts will say, well, it doesn't really matter, or what do you want to do? Or there's lots of options, and it's because the game is intuitive to them. They would be able, while sitting there playing the game, to immediately know which of these two items they would pick, but they don't tell you that. There's fear. What if I choose the wrong thing? Well, what is he really trying to do? Well, I don't really know. And it's like, but I'm not the expert, right? I don't actually know what would be optimal. I'm asking the experts for what would be optimal to achieve the goals I'm looking for.
You're right. Next time, I'm just going to say, install this, this, and this.
Exactly.
Because if you dislike any of this, you can change it at any time. It actually will not matter.
And this actually matters too, right? Because think about this. If someone said, so you want to do a minion build, and I said, no, I want as many skeletons as possible, those aren't the same thing. And in the beginning, I didn't know that. Now I do. But if you said a minion build, well, the best minion build does not use the most skeletons. It uses the best skeletons, which is less skeletons, which is not optimal. I'm completely serious here. If I said I am attempting to have as many skeletons as possible, and you told me, well, you'll use 5 archers and like 2 arsonists, and I'd be like, but if I didn't use arsonists, I could have 5 warriors. Yeah, but warriors aren't very good. There's not even enough space. Only so many units can attack a target at the same time. Right, but now I have more of them. You see, the optimal minion build is not the optimal skeleton maxing build, but someone who's an expert was going to give the wrong answer because they're now making an assumption about what it is that you want to do.
Yeah.
The lesson here is that everyone should just have as many skeletons as they can at any time. We should go to Home Depot after this and find that 10-foot Home Depot skeleton.
Is there one?
Yes. Yeah. Home Depot. They sell it every year. It's a 10-foot tall skeleton that you can put in your front yard. It's a 10-foot tall Home Depot skeleton.
Is it called a Home Depot skeleton?
I don't know. It's what the internet calls it. I'm pretty sure on their website it's 10-foot tall skeletons, like statue or something. It's a posable skeleton.
Okay.
You can put it in your front yard. The legends are true. Yeah. But anyway, the thing is that the lesson here is that you're right. Linux is better. And the reason people still end up using Windows for and there's corporate reasons why people use Windows. It's the level of control, right?
Well, you can add the same control in Linux with less programs.
Yes, but
people
how many people know how to do that?
Yeah, people don't know how to do that.
But all of your IT people do, right? And they're all from some other country. They've already come here pre-trained, so you've hired them, and that's all they know how to do. And no one on your team knows how to train them because you fired all of those people because they wanted to get paid more money for their expertise. So now you have a bunch of other people with less expertise, but they'll do what you think you want them to do.
Yeah.
Which is the problem with IT departments, really. The vast majority of them don't actually know what's best. Remember, they're not actually competent. They don't know what's best. They just know
They know what they've
common.
been told. Because here's the thing, Microsoft 365 is a horrible product. You can get everything that it provides for free. There's programs called LibreOffice. They are all competent enough to do exactly what Microsoft Office does.
Yeah, I use LibreOffice on my laptop.
Yeah. There's no reason for any person working on their own to purchase Microsoft Office.
Nope.
In fact, you should... Morally, you should not, because it's a subscription now.
Yeah, I hate that. That's its own problem.
And Google Docs also provides the same thing for free. The only problem is that because Google Docs provides anything for free, they're allowed to take any information from it. That's the trade-off people don't understand when they use Google products like Gmail or anything, is that they're allowed to look through your emails, and they often do.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I watched a James Lee, that's what it was, James Lee video recently, which was all about this subject, how he switched away from Adobe to DaVinci Resolve, how he switched to Linux, how he just switched to all these things. And here's the truth. I went through that whole explanation about my frustration with Linux people. The truth is, in an ideal world, everyone switching away from these major corporations to these other things is better.
Yeah.
Because it is just better. Nowadays, enough people have worked on this stuff that there is a version of it that just works and would be near identical to what you're used to on Windows. But the problem is everyone wants to do that thing. They want to say, well, what do you want? You got all these options. I don't want options. Can you do linux.windows.exe? Can I just have that?
I'm sure I could find one.
Oh, I'm sure you could. But people don't know to do that when
no.
someone says they're going to switch to Linux.
Yeah.
But in an ideal world, they would. Because Linux and everything, really all the independent stuff. I keep wishing Fairphone would come to the US.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, here's the thing. I don't even think you need to have a Windows system, like a Windows-looking operating system, because people don't know how to use Windows.
No, what I really mean to say is that when I say look like Windows, what I mean is there are certain things that I can intuit easily, right?
see.
So a taskbar, right? Shortcuts, a menu with the program list that I'm looking for, things to have similar names in a way I understand. What I don't want is something like when I try to use some small Linux system where to install a program, I have to pull up a command prompt. There's two command prompts, one that requires the admin password and one that doesn't. And the admin password is separate from the regular password. And so you have to use the admin password and then it pulls up a different window. But that's a dangerous window, but you also need that window if you want to then type in a command line that will download the program. Right? Mm-hmm. Which is much like using Steam CMD to try to install a server. You understand?
I understand.
And that's less easy to someone who doesn't do it a lot, to someone who than just being able to download a file and hit install and then see it in the list. If I want to pull up something, I don't want to have to type run and then type in the thing that I want. I want to be able to click the icon to run it.
And yeah, there's ways to do that. But again, I know.
It's an instinct for you. But not for me.
And the sad part is a lot of the Linux program names have funny names like Nautilus. Do you know what Nautilus is?
I have no fucking clue what Nautilus is.
It's a file browser.
Oh, wow.
It's like...
That's pretty
there's a
something.
There's a program called Kitty. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
That's a terminal.
Oh, wow.
The fuck is a terminal?
Yeah. It's a command line.
That one I know. Yeah. That's the thing, right? Is that when it's called Kitty, but it's a terminal. Why not just call it terminal?
It's a play on it because it's TTY at the end, and that's terminal type something. And
yeah, that's great, Mr. Programmer. Everyone's laughing, and they love it. Why is it called Nautilus?
I have no idea.
Right, because there's no real reason. You could have just called it Linux Explorer or File Navigator. You could have called it Navigator.
Well, the problem is there's like 10 different file explorers. One is called Dolphin. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's great. Did you know there's an emulator called Dolphin?
Yeah.
These aren't the same thing.
I know.
Yeah, crazy. Helpful. When I'm searching Dolphin, I'll get a lot of great answers. You're laughing because you understand.
I know the problem.
And someone who is competent in Linux could watch this and be like, none of that's a big deal, but it's never a big deal. I do this, right? I was teaching Brock how to edit, the guy who's been editing our videos, been making our shorts. I was teaching him how to edit. And at first it's like, I would say things and it's like, he'd be like, how do I increase the volume? Oh, I have to go in like the audio thing and do it. I'm like, no. You can actually just like drag up. Like for little adjustments, when you're not doing a lot, you don't need to do it. You can just drag up this line right here. And he was like, oh, that's really easy. But it wasn't obvious.
Yeah.
Right? But for me, I've been editing for 15 years. Like, these are little things that are just like, even when I don't know something, I know how to begin looking for it. He doesn't.
Well, I will say for anyone thinking about moving to Linux, there are a few programs you can install to make it easier for yourself. Replace Photoshop with Krita, GIMP, or GIMP. Replace video editing software.
There's tons of those, but replace video editing software with
Kdenlive, Shotcut, or you could use DaVinci Resolve. There's a free version of DaVinci if you really want. It works on Linux.
Is there a free version of DaVinci that works on Linux? Is it identical? Or does it miss a lot of features?
I know a friend of mine who's making videos is using it. I don't really know the difference.
I really want to switch to DaVinci Resolve because
I know there is
but it's expensive.
I know there is a free version you can use and just make videos.
But I'd have to then learn it myself and teach it to Silver. So
I have seen, if you try Kdenlive, apparently people find it easy.
It's not easy that I'm worried about. It's feature complete, you know.
I've found, at least working with Kitty, a lot of with Krita.
He did it. He got the two things completely wrong because of their ridiculous names.
Working with Krita, every time I went through a program when someone was talking about, oh, this Photoshop feature does whatever, I've always found that Krita had a similar feature.
Okay. Well, I don't know. All I know,
I'd say give it a shot. See what you think. They have Windows versions.
If I ever build a new computer, I will do that. But currently my computers, my two computers that work together to produce the results of the things I'm doing, are meticulously set up, and I am not willing to start over.
Fair enough.
But when I build a new computer, the next time, when I call you and Mike over to do the assembly that I don't want to do, I will try Linux. I'll give it a fair shake. You know, I hope that it's interesting. I was watching a video about SteamOS. It's a pretty good operating system. I hope they release it to just being available to everybody.
Well, look up Bazite. It is a slightly different version that uses the SteamOS, I'm going to say another word you don't know, compositor.
Oh!
That has the whole big picture mode. If you've ever used the Steam Deck, it has the UI, but it also lets you have other launchers. It does a lot of nice things for you. They're using that so that you could have a system there. It could act like a little bit of a home console. I haven't tried it myself because I haven't needed to. I just on my Linux thing, I just pull up, I have a script that just launches the SteamOS UI up on my TV. And
interesting. And you know what's funny is we just had an entire conversation that anyone in Congress would just have died. They'd have a brain aneurysm if they had listened to it.
Yeah.
Right? Chances are we lost a bunch of people during that conversation just because they didn't even understand what I was ranting about.
Yeah.
But it's true. That's, circling back, that's the problem, right? We don't live in a world that's designed for technological literacy. And I do wonder sometimes if the conspiracy theorists are at least partially right, that there are people who are powerful that would prefer if you didn't have the understanding.
I know a lot of companies would prefer that. I know Windows prefers that.
Yeah, they prefer that you don't have understanding.
Because the biggest problem with trying to switch to Linux is everything has Windows installed, and no one knows how to make a bootable disk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I do, by the way.
And even if you do know how to make a bootable disk, you have to go into your BIOS and disable this feature that makes it so that it only boots into Windows systems. Because it's if you haven't had to boot into Linux,
that's interesting. Because I didn't have to do that when I booted into a Linux thumb drive.
That might be it depends on the motherboard, really.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, it may be. I don't know how old it is. It's not a super old motherboard, but my motherboards are definitely a number of generations back.
Because it depends on the motherboard and the manufacturer do different things. But I know a lot of people will have a problem even booting into a boot drive because there's this secure boot thing that says, oh, I expect a Windows boot drive. A Windows bootable device, and then it will be I am panicking. What the hell is this thing?
Yeah, because when I was having those problems with computer parts, and I was trying to figure out why it was not working, I booted into. I just happened to have a different Linux OS on a thumb drive for something I had done a long time ago, and I was like, okay, well, I'll just use this to boot up my laptop without having to boot into the main drive, so I can take a look.
You cause other people to just die inside. It's booting from a thumb drive. You can do that with Windows too, by the way.
Yeah.
Although probably it would work less well in the more modern Windows operating systems based on how stupid and less optimized they are.
I think one of the things that this is sort of reminding me of is earlier in the conversation when you talked about CrowdStrike, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the big problems we have in general as a society, as a nation, as whatever, is that everything is super centralized with a few huge companies, a huge few services where, and it's not, this isn't even about the free market of competition. This is about the market of security. And I don't even mean information security. I mean the security of infrastructure. When everything runs on its own, when everything runs on one thing, if that thing breaks, nobody does anything. It's kind of like how Steam goes down for maintenance every Tuesday afternoon and nobody plays video games for 15 minutes, right?
Well, I play my GOG game, so you know.
But you get what I mean, right? Like the when something is centralized, you can't do anything. I mean, Steam, when it goes down, you still can play your games, but you can't play online, right? Like, because everything relies on the Steam server management thing, right? Mm-hmm. Peer-to-peer management thing. Mm-hmm. But the thing is like, that happened with CrowdStrike. Everybody used their services, which is why they were worth so much as a stock. Yeah. And the reason that they failed so hard, the reason everything suffered was because everybody used it. Yeah. So nobody's using competitive services. It's the same thing that happens. You take your real quick, just say like you take your car to a major auto parts place and they charge $1 million, right? Mm-hmm. But you go to like some guy at the garage who gives comparable service and quality for 1/5 the price, right? Go ahead.
The problem is the competition to CrowdStrike is a security team, and people don't like paying security teams. So instead, they'll lose millions of dollars from this CrowdStrike.
This happened at my old organization. They didn't like paying for people who weren't the salespeople. So which is because of a flaw in logic. Mm-hmm. So in their heads, they would say, well, salespeople pay for themselves by making sales. Mm-hmm. So we just need them to make more sales than we pay them, and therefore they aren't a cost, right? That's the logic, but that's incorrect. Because the majority of the sales were going to happen whether there was a salesperson or not. Yeah. If there had been a feature to just not go through a salesperson, most of those sales would have happened anyway, because very few people that were buying this product, which was ISO auditing, were ever going to buy it because you offered it to them. They're going to buy it because they have to have it. Yeah. So what ended up happening is we had a ton of salespeople who were all struggling to make their targets every month. Mm-hmm. And then everyone would go, why is P&L taking up so much? And then you'd have all these operational teams, and everyone would be like, well, we're sinking a lot of money into IT. We're sinking a lot of money into operational teams. And they don't earn because for some reason, the sale is counted as making money, but the delivery is not counted as making money. Even though legally you can't even keep the money if you haven't delivered the service yet. If you don't deliver the service, legally you have to return the money. So the money isn't made until it's delivered, but that is the way they viewed it. And that is a common issue, is people don't want IT departments because they see this necessary function. It's like saying why does my heart take up so much of my calories? Right? Yeah. Why does my liver use so much energy?
I should just take it.
Just get rid of it. Yeah. Right? Now give me 2 stomachs so I can fit more food, right? Because that's the stomach that's receives the energy, right? Yeah. See, and that's the idea. So they see it as these people are just taking money. They're just a cost. And so we need less of them. Then, of course, the CEO gets a $3 million bonus at the end of the year. And
they're very necessary. They're very necessary for seeing that things happen.
Right. And this isn't their salary. We're not even talking about salary. This is a $3 million bonus. And I go, how many IT people can you buy for $3 million? I wonder. If they're all making only like 60, 70 grand a year, because we've decided IT people aren't even worth anything anymore, how many could you have purchased with that $3 million? The answer is a lot. And that is quintessentially the problem. And that further goes into the issue of all this infrastructure, all these things we rely on. So many people were upset about the TikTok ban. Why? Where else are they going to get their entertainment? Literal thing they say, right? Well, where do you get your entertainment? A lot of normies don't use Discord or TeamSpeak or Reddit even.
Or read a book.
They don't read a book. You know, nobody uses TV anymore. They go on YouTube. They go on TikTok. A very small minority go on Twitch. You know, despite how popular we think Twitch is, the vast majority of people do not use the platform. But even your grandma is going on TikTok, you know.
Because she gets to see baby rapping to Christian rock or whatever.
Right. And then she goes on YouTube and watches all about how ivermectin will cure your cancer from legendary smart person and not crazy man, Mel Gibson. This is real, by the way. That wasn't a joke.
I was wishing it was.
So, you know, that is the reality we live in. I don't know what the solution is.
The solution is these guys end up succumbing to what people call Darwinism. They end up just...
They won't, though, right?
Yeah.
We live in a society that protects people from themselves, including the rich and powerful. We've talked about this before. There's an assumption that if you're powerful or rich, you're smart. And we don't account for all the different ways that a person can be in a position of authority or power or wealth without being particularly intelligent.
Yeah.
Or educated or clever.
For example, Elon Musk had a stroke twice today.
Oh, yeah.
It was like
Is that what that was?
It felt, he had some sort of spasm, really. It was like he had it twice.
I knew a guy with a funny mustache who had that spasm all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Elon Musk is a funny one. I don't think he's ever actually invented anything. I'm pretty sure
he's invented sucking himself off.
Yeah. Well, no, because I don't think he calls himself the founder of Tesla, but actually I'm pretty sure Tesla was made by some other guys and he called himself a founder and they told him he couldn't do that because he just invested, right? And then he sued the founders of Tesla for the right to call himself a founder, for which the court said you may call yourself a co-founder. Not the founder. He can call himself co-founder. He still says founder, even though that's what the lawsuit says. But he didn't. He didn't found it. It was already a company. It already existed. He just invested early on. And that's pretty much all of his business adventures. He doesn't really know anything about the subject. The people who are there do. And then he'll like show up and like explain it worse than they did. We've said this before. I don't like Elon Musk.
I don't either.
Yeah, well, I'm sure a large group, if they watched this far, a large group of people who have Elon Musk's proverbial dick shoved as far into their asshole as possible
Don't worry, we will
be upset.
We will have lost them through the Linux talk. They will not have. They will
not be here.
They will not have made it.
This is the secret chat. This is where you know you're a real one. Is when you're past the Linux talk.
They will have had a stroke trying to understand what the fuck we said.
Boot from a thumb drive. I'm gonna kill myself.
It's like they'll have thought file system. What is that?
What is a file system?
A DLL.
DLL. Dick long.
They should call it that.
That's what they should call it. That's the kind of file it is.
Fuck dynamic linked library. Call it Dick long.
Dick long. Well, that would be the title of a Linux program, and it would be like a media player.
You're not.
Calculator.
Well, here's the thing. The funny thing about Linux is I could find a media player, clone it, fork it, and then call it Dick Long, and it will be
and it would be real.
It would be real. It would be a thing you could.
You should do it. Do it. You won't. Do it. I'm serious. I want to download Dick Long and play media on it.
It would be much harder to download.
It will be hard. It's long twice. I am completely serious right now. I want him to do this.
VLC, I think is
Fork VLC. Name it Dick Long.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, do it. I will install this program. I'm not even kidding. I want people, when I play a video on stream, I want people to see Dick Long. That's what I want.
I'll go through the code, see if I can change the name from VLC to Dick Long, and see.
This is everything I ever wanted. This is amazing. This is the power of technology. Okay, this is how
This is the power of open source.
This is the power of open source. This is why we all must convert to open source software, so you too can download Dick Long Long, the video player. Why have OBS? Open broadcast software? No. Open butthole software. That's what I'm looking for. Name it that. Fork it, ship it. Fork it, rename it, ship it. That's what I'm saying. You change the icon to just a butthole. It's open butthole software. What's it do? Everything OBS does. It's identical.
It's like you.
But you have it.
Yeah.
I want this. This is so real. I love it. He's so upset right now. Look, like he's really upset at how happy I am at this idea. He doesn't want this to happen.
I don't want to put the effort in to do this. It's so much effort to make such a small change.
But it would be so worth it. Think of how great of a shitpost that is. Okay? Like, anyone watching this video, chances are they already know me because it's like the 5 people who click it from the Discord. But anything worth doing in life is a shitpost. Okay? Everything else is a necessity to live. But if it's for a shitpost, any length is worth it.
Even long.
Even long. Any length. Anyway, do you feel that we have covered this subject to your satisfaction today?
Yes.
Did we go a nice long time?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Glad to hear it. Well, thank you for talking today. If you made it to the end, you probably haven't. But if you did, you are a real long boy or girl. We don't judge. Everyone can be long around here. But either way, thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you in the next video recorded on open butthole software. Bye.
Bye.